Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Norway, and this is actually my second visit to this brewery, and the last time I did a review from these guys I was really quite impressed with it, even though it was a style that I haven't tried too many of. But we're going to return to these guys again, and we've got another interesting beer. So we're going to go to Florø in Norway and have a taste of another beer from Kinn Bryggeri, and this one is the Svarthumle, which literally means dark hops, and it's a black IPA. Now, the last beer I reviewed from these guys was the Kinn, and a fruit beer, really nice, came in this huge big bottle, but I was really impressed with it. As I say, a style that I'm not too familiar with, and in the case of the black IPA, it's a style that I know and a style that I like, but I just haven't reviewed many of them, so it should be another interesting review from Kinn Bryggeri for you today. And I have to give a shout out to Espen Lote, the guy who owns the brewery, because I sent him my last video, he really enjoyed it and wrote me a really nice message, but he said, unfortunately, because of the laws in Norway over advertising alcohol, he couldn't share it as he wanted to, but he thanked me for his review and was really nice and told me a lot about their beer and things. So a big shout out to Espen, and I hope the business continues to go well for you and your beer is excellent. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual website links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Kinn Bryggeri, and there will be more added in the near future, I'm sure, and also the usual social media things, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd. Feel free to get in touch with me through whatever means you like. To my Norwegian viewers, I apologise if any of the pronunciations aren't quite wrong. I'm still trying to learn Swedish, so Norwegian will take a little bit longer, and please do let me know some other Norwegian beers that you'd like me to have a look at. I've tried some really good stuff from Norway so far, but please let me know some of the more unknown breweries and things that you would recommend. Always good to hear from you guys and try beer from different places. But anyway, to tell you about Kinn Bryggeri. So Kinn Bryggeri is based in the town of Florø on the island of Florø in Norway. It's about halfway between Molde and Bergen. Both apparently meant to be very nice towns, and hopefully I can visit sometime. But Florø is a small but really scenic town, and it's actually the most western town in Norway and thus in Scandinavia. But the brewery itself was founded back in 2009 by beer enthusiast and home brewer Espen Lote, and most of the beers that he produces are Belgian or English styles, and the beer are apparently all produced in open fermenters. And originally the beers were actually only available in Norway, but the addition of a new bottling line and extra capacity has meant that the beers have started to go into Finland and also here to Sweden in 2015, which is why I can get this one here. So far we've had the Kinn, this guy here, the Svarthumle, and there's also the Vestkist IPA here. But the brewery slogan translates to "We do it the old way," and the label portrays Ivar Aasen, who actually helped produce a national Norwegian language from the various regional dialects. And the idea behind this was to remove Danish as the universal language of Norway. But there apparently, from what I remember, there are actually two dialects in Norway that are quite different these days, but apparently Ivar Aasen was a really kind of influential figure in Norwegian culture, so quite cool to see that they've implemented that on their bottles. But anyway, that's your brief little bit about Kinn Bryggeri. If you do want to try their beers, they've got a whole host of different styles there. There's just to list a couple of these for you. You've got Pilgrim, which is an English bitter, Dampen, which is California common, Vestkist, which is an IPA, Sjælefred, which is a brown ale, Prestostanen, which is a dark beer, Svarthav, which is a stout, Svartkunst, which is an imperial stout, Gamle Guten, which is a light stout, Hummelhal, which is an IPA, Prestonen, a brown stout, Tradition, which is a Norwegian guards beer, Brezhnev, which is a Soviet stout apparently, English God bitter, Skodahav, which is a white beer. In their Belgian range, they've got Jubileum, which is a wit beer, Slatul, which is a saison, Bovelin, which is a triple, Priel, which is a Belgian double, Saison extra, and they've also got Kveldbreis, which is a bright Belgian beer. And they've also got quite a few seasonal beers too. There's the Kinn, which I reviewed for you before, Sommerøl, which is their summer beer, Jolefred. There's two versions of this, which are a Scotch ale, just of differing strengths. There's Thomas Mesa, which is a Belgian quad, and there's also Solsnu, which is a French beer de garde. And that's all the beers you can get from these guys. They're all listed on the website, so if you do want to find out a little bit more about them, do go and check it out. I really want to try one of the Scotch ales actually, and I've seen that they do a barley wine, and it was actually in one of the specials here in Sweden, but I've not managed to find it. But I would love to try the barley wine and the Scotch ales, so fingers crossed I can find those. But anyway, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer now. It should be really nice. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. This one's a 6.5% IPA. It's hopped with Hallertauer, Northern Brewer and East Kent Goldings, and it says on the back as well, it says it in Norwegian, just to let you see it. I'm not sure how well you can actually read that though, but it's in Norwegian, and it says it's This one is hopped with some American hops, some European variants, and also some dark malts. It says for the Svarthumle we brewed it with Hallertau, Northern Brewer, and East Kent Golding hops. And it's an old beer brewed at Kinn Bryggeri with old malts for an old style. And yeah, something like that. I'm not too good at Norwegian, as I say, so I'm not really going to try and read that. But 6.5% black IPA. This is the standard Kinn Bryggeri artwork on there. It's usually they're all just different colours and they have the different names, of course. And this is the Kinn Bryggeri bottle cap on there. I'm not sure if that's meant to represent one of the mountains close by or something like that, or maybe one of the fjords. Norway, of course, very famous for the fjords. Very, very beautiful country, incidentally, and a place I really need to visit. But yeah, 6.5% black IPA with Hallertauer, East Kent Goldings, and Northern Brewer hops. So should be quite a nice one. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening there. You can actually smell some of the nice fruits coming off of this one as we open it up. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, as I say, that Norway has these laws against advertising the beer, especially the craft beer, because the craft beer is really good. I mean, the kind of common Norwegian craft beers that you can get back home, you get Kinn Bryggeri and you also get the Mek-ju stuff. And in Sweden I've seen Kinn, and I've also seen the Bryggeri as well. Really, really good beer. So hopefully I can actually get up to Norway and get into the Vino Monopolet and actually buy a few more of the random Norwegian craft beers. They're supposed to be really, really good. So as you can see, this beer, if I put the light over to let you see it, you can see it's poured a really dark kind of rosewood colour. Really nice looking one. If I put the light behind it, it's got a bit of a slight red ruby tinge to it. There's a kind of 3/4 finger of a foamy beigey head on there. It looks very, very nice. There's quite a few little bits of sediment in this one, but that's kind of common. That seemed to be the thing with the last Kinn beer I had as well. I had a few little bits of sediment in there, but that's all part of the taste. You expect that from craft beer, and in my opinion, that's how you know the beer is actually of good quality. But it's a very, very attractive looking beer. No transparency to it. Looks very nice. A few big bubbles sticking to the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head as well. Very attractive looking beer, so let's give it a smell. So, as you would expect from the black IPA, you've got a nice bit of hoppy character, but to go with that, there's a nice bit of dark roasted malt in there. So yeah, I think the hops are coming out on top of this. It's got a nice kind of grassy and slightly floral character coming out. There's a little bit of citrus in there too, and maybe just a little bit of tropical fruit. But yeah, probably the most prominent component of the hops, I think, is a floral and grassy element. There's probably some earthy character in there too, but that's kind of mixing with the malty notes underneath there, I would say. You'll be able to taste more whether there's earthy hop character in there, but when you've got East Kent and East Kent Goldings and Northern Brewer, pretty much a dead cert that you're going to get some of that in the taste. But yeah, there's a nice bit of chocolate in the malt there. Some caramel as well, kind of sweet but at the same time a little bit toasted. And there's a good bit of nutty and woody aroma in there. You can get some of the bready character out of this beer as well. But it has all the elements you expect of a nice black IPA. You can actually smell, now that I think about it, you can smell a little bit of these German noble hops coming out there. A bit of that kind of smooth, grassy and floral character, but at the same time, just a little bit of earthiness in there too. That kind of slightly sweet, earthy character. You can just pick it up if you're used to these German beers, and you can definitely smell it in this one. But there is definitely a kind of slightly tropically or reddish fruity ester coming out of this one. A little bit of citrusy character, but also some nice grassy and floral elements coming out of this beer too. But it smells very nice. As I always say with the beers, give them a little bit of a smell before you actually get stuck into them. It always gives you a good idea of what they're going to taste like. But without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. This is the Svarthumle from Kinn Bryggeri in Florø in Norway, near Molde and also near Bergen. Both very nice towns apparently, so let's get stuck into this one. Skål! That's really nice actually, very, very smooth beer. As I always say with these beers, just sugar them around your palate and just let the whole mouth adjust to the flavour. But there's quite a bit going on in this beer actually. It is really enjoyable. So yeah, this one's a little bit different from some of the black IPAs you'll come across from America. You can really taste the difference in this one since it has the English and German hops in it rather than the American ones. I must have misread that on the back actually when I said there's American hops in this. Definitely more of an English style IPA crossed with a kind of black beer if you like. Not so much of the American character in there, but it's an interesting style, I have to admit that. The English IPA crossed with the black malts, it's really nice. So yeah, the middle of your palate is blanketed with a really nice, but all at the same time quite dark. There's a big roasted bready character just goes right across the middle of your palate. A lot of roasted character, slightly dry in the middle of the palate too, but very, very nice, I have to admit. Quite a roasted malt flavour just sitting there in the middle of your tongue. There's a bit of sweet chocolate in there that comes out a little bit more into the aftertaste and just blends a bit with that big roasted character. And there's a little bit of caramel too. If you go right down the middle of the tongue, there's a bit of sweet caramel there, but there is some toasted element to that as well. There is an element of a nutty and woody flavour that just infuses in with that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the malt base there, so just pay attention to the middle of your palate. But as you move into the aftertaste, there's definitely a big kind of roasted character. It reminds me of some of the scone spread that we get here in Sweden. It's just a well-fired, almost like the top of a well-fired bit of bread. It's just a nice big ashy and dark, almost kind of smoky. There's almost a little bit of coffee flavour to this beer actually in that regard. But just pay attention to that. If you move out to the hoppier parts of the palate, which is the edge of the tongue, in the back corner there's an earthy character. It's quite smooth, but as you move into the aftertaste it does get a little bit more bitter and a little bit dry, and you can feel it building up. But as you move further forward in the tongue, you get the more grassy hop flavours, and it smooths out. A little bit of floral character around the front kind of curve of the tongue. And I think that's the Hallertau hops coming out. The more earthy characters will be the East Kent Goldings and the Northern Brewer hop coming out there. And if you just go behind the very front curve of your tongue there, you'll feel a little oily bubble. And as I always say in the videos, that's where a lot of your fruity characteristics come out in the beer. There's a good bit of citrus in here, but there is a little bit of a tropical element coming out too, but that's very, very mild. I want to say the more prominent component of the fruit in here is a red ester. It's a little bit kind of like raisins, a little bit like plums, but there is a citrusy element in there too. You can pick that up. So it does make the fruit seem a little bit more candied in my opinion. Yeah, it's a very juicy and kind of ready ester candied fruit in there, but there is, as I say, there is an element of citrus there, and it blends together really quite nicely with the sort of slightly floral element you're getting from these noble hops. The Hallertau hop is a really interesting one. It's normally used in these very traditional German styles that don't change very much, I would say. But obviously you get darker beers and things like that, but most of the time you'll find it in the craft beer world, you'll find it in things like Pils beers and Helles lagers and stuff like that. So to see it used in the very, very dark beer like this, but more of an American style of beer, or more of an English or hybrid style of beer, it's really quite interesting. I have to admit that that works quite well. I really love the Hallertau and the Tecknang hops, and how some breweries are really experimenting with them. So a thumbs up to Kinn Bryggeri for that. But yeah, that fruity character is really quite interesting in this one, and it's a lot different from some of the American ones. The hoppy character is a little bit more subtle. It's not trying to be in your face and be too dry. The idea behind this one is just to blend the flavours together, and it works really well, I have to admit. Really nice black IPA. There's not much more that you can say about the flavour in this one. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, mid-bodied I would say, maybe pushing the full-bodied bit actually, but more of a mid-bodied beer in my opinion. Carbonation does have a good little bit of presence in this one. It helps make the transition from the wet mouthfeel to the more dark and roasted bitter character that you get from this beer. pardon me, slightly oily mouthfeel as well. But there's a big roasted malty character in this one that, as I say, lingers in the middle of the tongue. There's a little bit of sweetness from the caramel and the chocolate. Caramel is a bit more toasty though, but there's a good bit of a juicy, fruity character in this one that sits behind the tongue. And at the back of the palate you get a nice earthy character, and the bitterness of that just builds as you go into the aftertaste. But the other hoppy elements of the beer is very, very smooth. So overall, I mean, this is a really, really nice beer. And if you like your English style IPAs, this is one for you to try. If you like your darker style of beers, this is one for you to try as well. And if you're interested in hybrid beers, or if you like both styles, give it a go, because it's something a little bit different. And as I say, this black IPA for me is a bit different from some of the American ones. The American ones, American breweries are, in my mind, are always, if they're brewing a dark beer, they're always very forward on the malts. But if they're brewing a hop forward beer, they're always really forward on the hops, if that makes sense. If it's a double IPA, very hoppy. If it's an imperial stout, very malty. They don't try and blend these together though, and this one for me does that very well, and that's why I find it quite interesting. So do try it if that's the sort of thing you're into. Very, very good beer from a brewery who I think are going to go quite far. Their beers seem to be pretty damn good, and hopefully I can review some more of their beers for you in the very near future. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Go and check out Kinn Bryggeri and try the Svarthumle. Not sure if you can actually get this one anymore, because when I checked the website it wasn't listed, but I think it's maybe it could well be one of the ones that they like to export, but a very good beer nonetheless. So do try it. I'm not sure how widely available it is outside of Sweden, Finland and Norway yet, but hopefully you'll start to see it soon. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As always, let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts on this beer. If you do happen to have tried it, let me know where you're trying it as well. That's always interesting to know. But I thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do go and check out the social media and follow me on there. Thanks for your support on the channel, and until my next beer review, Slange just now, many more from Norway coming, hopefully in the very near future. Skål.